Imagine lining up for a dream race, only to realize the whole event is broken from the moment the lights go out. That's the experience Project Motor Racing delivers right now, a game that looks perfect on paper but falls apart the second you actually start driving it. You're sitting at the back of the grid at Mount Panorama, waiting for the race to begin, and some of the cars in front of you are literally pointing the wrong way. It's obviously not going to end well. The lights go out, chaos explodes instantly, and before the first corner the whole event already feels like a disaster. That one moment sums up Project Motor Racing in its current state. On the surface, Project Motor Racing sounds like the ideal racing sim. It offers a strong lineup of cars, including several that rarely show up in modern racing games, which is a big deal for fans who are tired of the same few manufacturers being reused. It avoids the usual free-to-play traps, there's no monthly subscription, and it doesn't lean too hard on multiplayer as its main attraction. All of that sounds fantastic. The problem is that once you start racing, the experience quickly collapses under clumsy AI that barely acknowledges your existence, a wildly inconsistent penalty system that feels more like punishment than policing, and a mix of bugs and strange physics behavior that repeatedly pull you out of the immersion. But here's where it gets controversial: there are flashes of something genuinely good buried under all this frustration. Project Motor Racing positions itself as a spiritual successor to the now-defunct Project Cars series, which vanished after the studio behind it, Slightly Mad Studios, was absorbed by Codemasters and then swept up again when EA acquired Codemasters. The names and logos may have changed, but Straight 4 Studios is essentially Slightly Mad reborn with a fresh badge slapped on. The intent seems clear: this is meant to be the true follow-up to Project Cars 2, while quietly ignoring the more casual, arcade-like direction taken with Project Cars 3. Think of it like a film sequel that pretends the previous movie never happened, similar to how some fans treat Jaws 4 in relation to Jaws 3D, except, just like that film, the deeper you go, the stranger and more disappointing things get. Career setup and progression. To its credit, the single-player career mode is built on a solid foundation and starts off feeling flexible and welcoming. You can choose from 3 different starting budgets, which lets you decide how you want to approach your journey. Maybe you want to begin in the cheapest categories, scraping your way up from the bottom, or maybe you'd rather start with enough money to buy something top-tier and jump directly into the big leagues. That level of control over how you enter the game's economy is genuinely smart and player-friendly. There are also 3 separate career save slots, which is an underrated quality-of-life feature in any racing game. It means you can experiment with multiple paths, perhaps one save for a low-budget grind, another for high-end machines, and one more for family members or friends who want to dip into the game without touching your carefully built progress. This design choice makes the game more approachable and replayable. And this is the part most people miss: the structure around the racing is actually thoughtful, it's the racing itself that keeps spoiling the fun. Your earnings can be tailored to how you like to play, which is another clever touch. You can keep things straightforward by taking a flat payment per event, or you can opt into systems that reward only wins, making success feel more high stakes. There's even an option to have repair costs covered in exchange for giving up a portion of your winnings, effectively letting you decide how much risk and responsibility you want when it comes to damage and maintenance. These toggles are a smart way of aligning the game's in-game economy with your personal style and skill level, whether you're a cautious driver or someone who pushes the car to its limits. Unfortunately, the management layer stops evolving after those initial options. Beyond choosing your finances and progressing through events, there isn't much depth. You can't create a custom team look from within the base game, nor can you build your own liveries or plaster your cars with sponsor logos through in-game tools. If you're expecting robust team customization like in some other modern racers, you'll be disappointed. Mods are heavily promoted, including on consoles, and it's easy to imagine that talented creators will recreate famous liveries and designs. But relying on mods to fix what feels like a core missing feature is risky, especially for players on platforms or in situations where mods are harder to use. Structure of the campaign. Once you've got a car and a team of sorts, the campaign loop is straightforward: pick a championship or event, pay the entry fee, and race. The overarching goal is simple and authentic: show up at some of the world's most famous circuits, drive fast, and try to win without running your virtual team into financial ruin. This kind of stripped-back, race-focused structure can be refreshing, especially for players who just want to spend time on track instead of micromanaging menus. However, this promising framework is severely undercut by how miserable the on-track experience often feels. The driving itself is so close to being good that it makes the problems hurt more. You can sense the potential under the surface. But the oblivious AI and the harsh, often nonsensical penalty system combine into a 1-2 punch that can make even casual sessions feel draining. The result is a game that seems determined to push players away just when it should be pulling them in. AI behavior, the invisible player. The main problem with the AI is how frequently it acts as if your car doesn't exist. This isn't just about them turning in on you during a marginal overlap where you might have been a bit overambitious. That would be annoying but understandable in a tight sim. Instead, there are frequent moments where you're fully alongside another car, clearly occupying the same piece of track, and the AI just holds its line like a runaway train. They slam into you, cling to their perfect trajectory, and give no indication that they recognize you as a physical object on the circuit. Replays make this even more obvious and frustrating. Sometimes, their cars will partially clip through your front end, almost as if parts of your car are semi-transparent. This lack of consistent physical interaction breaks immersion and makes close racing feel less like a battle and more like a coin toss. The absence of basic support tools such as a radar, proximity indicators, or even a spotter calling out cars alongside you only makes things worse, leaving you feeling blind during side-by-side racing. On PS5, single-player races are capped at 15 AI opponents, which feels thin for a sim that aspires to replicate intense, crowded grids. Crossplay multiplayer can handle up to 32 drivers, so it's clear the game can manage larger fields under the right conditions. Ironically, given how recklessly the AI behaves, you might end up relieved that there aren't more of them on track at once. When nearly every car around you drives like a wrecking ball, a smaller grid feels less like a limitation and more like a survival measure. Contact, weight, and unfairness. If you love old-school, aggressive touring car racing, think classic Super Touring or V8 supercars, you might be completely fine with a bit of elbow-to-elbow chaos. Hard contact and door banging can be exciting when handled fairly. The problem is that Project Motor Racing's AI crosses the line from tough but fair into unrealistically stubborn and strangely invulnerable. They often feel heavier and less affected by physics than your own car, reminiscent of older racing games where AI opponents seemed glued to their lines regardless of what you did. In some experiments, you can slam into the back of an AI car at speed and watch them continue through the corner like nothing happened, while your car rockets into the gravel and loses multiple positions. There's no sense of shared consequence. Combined with their willingness to shove you off the track without hesitation, it creates an imbalance where you're constantly taking the damage and the penalties, while the AI marches on. And this is where it gets controversial. Some players might argue that strict AI creates a higher skill ceiling and forces discipline. But does it really feel fair if the AI doesn't seem bound by the same rules and physics as you? The penalty system problem. Layered on top of the AI issues is a track limit penalty system that often feels downright hostile. If you get nudged off the circuit by another car, even when it's not your fault, you can still be hit with a time penalty for leaving the track. You've already lost time recovering, and then you're punished again with a 2-second penalty that can completely wreck your chances if you're otherwise running at a similar pace to the pack. In close fields, 2 seconds is the difference between a hard-earned podium and a mid-pack finish. This constant threat of penalties for incidents you didn't cause can sap all the enjoyment out of long races. It's especially deflating to be in a rhythm, running consistent laps, beginning to enjoy yourself, and then suddenly receive a penalty for a minor off-track moment that didn't even result in a performance gain. That single flash of text can instantly turn a satisfying stint into a "why am I even bothering" moment. Other sims handle this more gracefully. Some only penalize you if the game